Guys, last week was insane, right? Actually insane. We got a product stream on Tuesday, and that showed us a bunch of really cool stuff. But then people started realizing, hey man, you know what? V's actually more interesting than D for some reason. Why is that? People started talking about it, people started making blog posts about it, people started making just things about it, and people got into a pretty heated argument, especially on Japanese Twitter. And I think you would kind of see all these drama already. Basically all the big Van tubers already posted about it, like Different Fight and Solemn talked about it. But then on Friday, you know, things reached a new level, and that is they announced Derek, and everyone just started posting memes like, wow, you know, Bruce is UG now, Bruce is everything, and like it was really funny. I'll be honest, I had a lot of fun. But let's kind of talk about the serious stuff. I think there's a lot of concerns that a lot of people have. I personally have some criticism about the Overdress format, like D in general. And sure, like it's coming from a place where of love, right? We love the game. If we didn't like the game, we wouldn't bother making these criticisms. But you know, I do have some criticism. There's some stuff that they're doing all right with. There's some stuff they can improve with. So let's kind of just get into it and talk about some of the meaty topics, right? All right. So first of all, let's kind of talk about the issue on why do people like V now, right? Nothing's really changed about V. You still get Great Stuck. Going first is still pretty good. I mean, you have Healer Guardians now. Nothing's really changed at the core there. So why do people like it over Overdress at the moment? Well, there's like two things, right? Two things. One, Overdress, you know, it feels a bit stagnant at the moment. Everything's kind of samey. Yeah, like it's just nothing much going on, right? Especially in English, right? Because we don't have much going on until like Literal comes out in like a month or so. And our set 3's like in December. Yeah, it's gonna be very slow. But then, you know, reverse units got revealed, right? That's the second thing. Reverse units are cool. They were cool when they were out in the beginning. They're still cool now. And I mean, if you think about it, right? Anything with a darker, edgier, emo version of themselves is just way cooler, right? When you think about it. So like the light side, dark side's way cooler than the light side, right? Dark Knights way cooler than Paladins. You know, Saber Altar, John Altar, way cooler than their normal counterparts. You know, anything that's a dark, edgier version is just way cooler than the normal one, right? So you look at it, reverse units coming out. Wow, they're just so cool. They're even releasing new reverse units that we haven't seen. So that's like double the coolness of like the amount of coolness that already existed. So that's like heaps of cool coming. So that's just like way destroying a lot of the D interest and converting it into V interest. And I mean, like everyone loves, I'm pretty sure everyone loves it. They're the one thing that made Limit Break format cool, right? Because everyone has some weird love about Limit Break format, but they're probably only remembering, you know, oh yeah, reverse units, I can't wait to be an invader. Right? And I mean, in the anime, when you first saw reverse units, like, oh yes, that guy just locked his whole field and retired his whole field and still lost the game. Right, but they were still cool. They still managed to be cool because they were like edgy villains. So honestly, when they revealed reverse units to come in, yeah, that's basically where all the interest went. Everyone's happy, and I'm sure. Okay, I'm sure that like when set 10 in Overdress rolls around, and they introduce Dark Bastion, Dark Seraph Snow, I don't know what else dark stuff there could be. I don't know, Dark Nirvana, right? Yeah, evil hero, whatever. People are just gonna be like, wow, dude, you know, D is way cooler than all the other formats right now. I can't wait to play it. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the same thing. So just get hyped, right? This idea, throw it out there, guys. Dark versions will just sell packs. Okay, so let's kind of talk about why does the D format feel so stagnant right now? In a way, I mean, some people are definitely having fun for sure, but I think overall, right? Even I'm kind of feeling it a bit like, you know, it's still kind of the same, right? I think there's a couple of things, right? There's a couple of things. One is that when we look at like the top meta stuff, right? It's kind of just been the same for quite a long time, and it's looking to be the same like going into the next set as well, right? So Bruce and Bastion, they were pretty much the top decks in set 1. And I mean, in the East, I think people say Bastion was better. And in the West, I think some people say Bruce is better. You know, kind of a bit different, right? Kind of a bit different. But then I think in set 2, people definitely think Bruce is better than the than Bastion, right? So Bruce is top tier, but like Bastion's still there. And then looking into set 3, yeah, Bruce is still looking pretty good, especially after they revealed Derek. Now, people have been saying, right, you know, we don't know if Derek is that good. And I can tell you, I'll tell you a secret, guys. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. He does a pretty good job. Of course, you can whiff, right? You can look at top five cards and all triggers, but you know, you could look at top 5 cards and they're not triggers. They go plus, like insanely, right? And then even if you don't call anything, they go to soul, right? So just building soul for your final rush. Yeah, I digress a bit. The top tiers are looking quite good, right? Bastion, you could probably run a set 1 deck. Bastion would just put in 11 crits, and you'll probably still do really well. Seraph Snow looking pretty nice. So yeah, a lot of the top tiers haven't changed, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I think it just feels very stagnant. But also, right, nothing is evolving, right? What are you replacing in a deck in Overdress? You're replacing your grade 2s and 1s, right? You're replacing your fodder cards. You're not replacing your main card. I think when you look back in Vanguard, it's always been, you know, your Vanguard has evolved or changed, right? If you really like Kagero, you know, cool, right? You play Kagero, next set comes out, you might be playing Blazing Flare Dragon, right? You might be playing something else. And then, you know, you like Dragonic Overlord? Hey, set 5, you can pay $30 to evolve your Dragonic Overlord into Dragonic Overlord the End, right? That's pretty cool, right? That's pretty cool. But right now in Overdress, of course, only 3 sets been out, but because of how Overdress is built, you don't really replace your main Vanguard. And in fact, a lot of the early game randomness, because of the ride deck, has been, you know, there's no randomness. You just go from 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? Always. And then you sit on that 3 because you want Persona Ride, and that's the gimmick, right? So nothing's really changing. You won't, when a new set comes out, you're not like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a new Vanguard or anything like that. Even like looking back as well, you always had like 2 Vanguards. You had an alternate Vanguard and your main Vanguard, or you just had 2 good cards, right? Or you had a break ride and then your main Vanguard, things like that. In Overdress, it's not that. You just have 1 and you're sticking 1 for pretty much the whole game. And then you're replacing your regards. So your regards are just like that random card called, I don't know, like Fasada. That's a cool card, but it's not really your main card, right? I mean, there's Leonard, like he's super OP, but that's kind of why you know him, right? You kind of know them by their function rather than I have a connection or an identity with this card. I think the only card that really has any sort of connection that people have, right, is probably Virina, because he's evolving, he's changing every single time. And I think, you know, for maybe a casual player or something like that, I think that kind of identity is important. In Vanguard, and maybe we've kind of lost a bit of that, and that's why it just feels a bit stagnant. Because one of the things with Vanguard is that it kind of is built on kind of like an identity as well. People always go, hey, I'm a Kagero player, I'm a Kagero main. Now we say I'm a Bruce main or things like that. But you know, I don't really see Bruce evolving like set 3, like 3 sets in. Bruce hasn't really changed, except, you know, its final rush mechanic has gotten better, right? And its regards have gotten better. So it's all mostly about your regards getting better, or your fodder cards, I'd say, rather than your Vanguard. So there could be that kind of stagnation. Also, just the overall like gimmick of Overdress as a format, right? What are the 3 gimmicks of Overdress when you come to think about it, right? It is 1, there's a ride line, there's a ride deck, I mean, so you can never get great stuff. That's nice. It's nice to have, right? Not getting great stuff is pretty cool. Remember, like V is maintaining interest even without one, right? So you have a ride deck that doesn't really, it's not like that woomph that goes, oh yeah, I want to play card games like really now, right? You have Persona Ride. That's not really a gimmick, right? It's like numbers, you know. You ride a copy of yourself, you get 10k in a draw. And third thing, you have an over trigger, right? That's not, okay. Let's not talk about over triggers now. But then you have like the rest of it is just like mechanics for your specific ride line. Kind of just, you know, determines how you play. And I mean, when you think about it, right? Like these overarching gimmicks for entire like formats or sets or changes, right? They've lasted for a while, right? When G came out, strides. This is the big mechanic. We're just invested in this. This is huge. Things are going to change. Your Vanguard is constantly changing as well. It's evolving. Like, even though you're sitting on a Chronojet for like a long time, your strides are actually changing. So, you know, you're feeling that kind of evolution. Legion has a big mechanic because it's Legion. You get 2 Vanguards. Wow. That's crazy, right? Limit Break, kind of a gimmick, right? But I don't know. People really like Limit Break. They think back and go, man, Limit Break was really fun. I like sitting around and and not doing anything until Limit Break 4. But man, that was really cool. But I guess that's also because there was some really iconic stuff from Limit Break. Chaos Breaker Dragon, Dragonic Descendant, Dauntless Drive Dragon, Reverse Units, right? Those were Limit Break 4 Limit Break cards. They were really cool. So you had like really interesting overarching themes in each of the formats. Even V, right? V comes out, it was a reboot, right? It's starting again, really. But you have gifts. Gifts are new. Gifts are totally new. So what is really new about Overdress though? It went back to being simple because it wants to attract new people. But you know, Persona Ride's not really that cool. It's just kind of the same Vanguard, I guess. It's nations, okay, that's cool. But it's gotta be like something that's really cool, right? And I guess like that's a pretty big missed opportunity in my opinion, right? So Overdress, I think Overdress could have been a great universal mechanic, right? Great universal mechanic. It didn't have to just be Nirvana, Ride Line can only use it. If everyone had an Overdress unit, right, you could develop connections between like the characters and a certain card in your deck, right? A certain like grade 2 or grade 0. And that itself could like evolve as like the game progresses, right? So Megumi could have like a certain card that's related to her, and that you see that evolve. You're like, well, that's pretty cool. She likes Magnolia. You know, that's kind of iconic signature units that you ride to. But then you have a grade 2 that kind of evolves like that. You know, Tamari has this. You know, Bruce has this. Well, not Bruce. Right? Danji has this. I've been talking too much about Bruce. So yeah, I think that was kind of like a missed opportunity. Like the format's called Overdress, right? So you kind of think that mechanic will be widely used, but instead you have one guy using Overdress and the rest of them using this Final Rush, right? This one, just like meteorites. I mean, it's cool. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, more of these strange mechanics are like cool, but you know, having this big mechanic that really makes people go, you know that game, bro, you can play stuff over things. That's really nice. I think that would have benefited Overdress quite a lot and increased its capabilities, I guess, like just attracting, you know, being like a really cool format, right? I think Zex does it. You have player cards, and if you play this play, you have specific units that it gets, you know, key units, and that creates that connection, right? And you can kind of have that connection too. You're like, I like Blaster Blade. They've done it before, right? Blaster Blade, you don't have to, Blaster Blade and Alpha, you don't have to just be like, you know, the grade 3 being the key unit. So I think it's definitely a missed opportunity, and honestly, they're probably gonna release Overdress for everyone at some point, because you know this is how card games kind of progress and creep. But it would have been nice if it was something like a set 1 kind of thing where people go into this new thing. Because remember, they want to attract new players. But at the same time, there's a lot of returning players, and they go, oh wow, okay, it's like Vanguard from before, but you know, there's this new mechanic, so everyone's kind of more excited rather than just go, this feels like set 1 except with V power lines, right? So yeah, I think that was kind of a missed opportunity, and hopefully they kind of iterate on some of these mechanics a bit better, because again, I can't stress how boring a Final Rush right now is. Right? Final Rush is a mechanic. It's not that cool. Prison used to be kind of lame. Now it's bonkers because it got support. And what about some other ones, right? Like Bastion. How are you gonna make that better, right? It's like Bastion's just gonna get Bashna, and then Bruce is gonna get Brucia, something like that. The playstyle isn't really changing. I guess like Orphis finally got a restanding Regard, right? That's kind of cool, but you know, what is your Vanguard doing? It's still doing the same thing for three sets, going on to the 4th set until we get like Super Bastion and Super Bruce. We get the next evolution of those cards, maybe. So yeah, it's kind of yeah. They need to find a way to get the interest in there, I think. I mean, people are saying like Overdress, it's good that I don't have to replace my Vanguard and pay more money for it, but you're putting that money on the rear guards, right? So in the end, it doesn't really make any difference. And sure, prices are cheap right now. That's just because there's so much supply. So even if they were grade 3s or like things like that, it'd still be paying the same amount of money. So it's not really a money problem. It's just where the money is going to. I think another worry that has been brought up is the 11 crit meta that we're going to be entering into, because the 3rd place set of crits are coming out. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case. Not every deck is going to suddenly become playing like 11 crit, because the format's kind of broken down into 3 kinds of decks, right? There's the crit front builds, and those decks will likely evolve into just 11 crits, because people are running fronts now because they don't value the draw, just because they don't need it. Right, they don't need it, so running the crit will just be a natural evolution, right? Just much more offensive power. The second type of builds are like the crit draw builds, and they're running the draw because they need that draw, right? Triggering 1 draw in the game basically helps them out quite a lot, so they can't really replace that draw with crits unless you just want to trade drawing pieces for just hopefully luck sacking your opponent. And it's not a great game plan if you're playing against people who are a bit, knowledgeable on what to deal, how to deal with opponents' resources, especially with a deck that lacks resources, right? And the third deck is Bruce, just because Bruce is just too good. It doesn't need crits. just run more draws. You can just run draws and like draw pieces and just win Final Rush. Just needs to survive, right? And overall, like running 11 crits means you don't see good enough pieces. So it's similar to the previous one, except the Bruce is like on a totally different tier, right? But yeah, you're trading. If you're running 11 crit, you're trading in your later game for the ability to kind of just randomly sack your opponent. I think that's wrong. But I'm pretty sure someone will come up with a great 11 crit deck. But what this actually means, though, is that a lot of these decks are actually getting closer to Bruce when you think about it. Like the top decks that like Bastion, Seraph Snow, they were running crit fronts. They're gonna become 11 crits, and that just means they have a high opportunity to just sack Bruces out of the game. While Bruces aren't able to do that. They still have to wait for their final rush and win. So that sounds like the top and the top are getting closer. Is that a good thing? Not really. I don't think so. I think any format where there are a lot of decks running max crits, right? 12 crits at least, is not a great format. It's a pretty sacky format, and overall it's not that fun, right? And when you think about how many crit decks are gonna come out, your Zorga's a crit deck, Dragonic Overlord's gonna be a crit deck, and yeah, I said Bastion and Seraph Snow. And Orfist is going to be crit. There's actually quite a lot of crit decks, right? Heavy crit decks. Some of them might not be considered to be the top tier, but at least 2 of them are already there. So that feels kind of bad, right? I think when you look back into the history of Vanguard overall, there's not that many 12 crit decks that you think about, right? The earliest one is something like OTT, because that could support 12 crits. Alfred as well. Alfred, not MLB. Alfred 12 crit was a thing because you can just build a field, sit on it, and just hopefully crit out the opponent. And then after that would be something like Grand Blue or SGD, right? Running heavy crit counts. But apart from that, until you enter like the Geo where they're running crit stands, because stands just had crazy effects. A lot of people are still running draws. And sure, like draws nowadays in D aren't that great. I think the key point when it comes to this is that can your deck sustain max crits? And if it can't, then you probably still have to run draws in order to have a more consistent win con rather than just sacking crits. I think it just comes down to that. And certain decks will be able to pull off more crits better, and some decks just won't. And of course, yeah, again, I said before, having max crit decks running around in the top tiers doesn't feel great. And that's something that they'll have to look into, right? That's something they'll have to look into. The other question is, does anything need to be hit in D? Because again, that producer letter saying that, D was fine, but people are going, really? Is it really fine? It has Lennon, dude. Like Lennon, and now it has Derek. Is it really fine? I don't really like hitting things immediately unless they're like so OP, it's insane. I feel like right now, a lot of players really aren't playing Bruce that well anyway, but looking into the future, if they still continue to print cards, like good cards for Bruce, and not that many great cards or anything else, then yeah, they probably do need to hit it, right? They need to do something about it. If we think about like Bastion right now, it literally needs no upgrades and it's still performing at a competitive level. And into set 3, what's going to change? It's probably still going to run the same thing and still do extremely well. Bruce, it's gotten some more toys to play with, and it's probably just going to do extremely well as well. So you don't want to have a stagnant format like this, especially when, like I've said some points before, the main Vanguards are changing. Everything is looking the same. The only thing that's changing is your regards. And then you print something like Leonard, right? Sometimes people kind of lose a bit of faith in that, right? People are going, what is your balancing team doing? So yeah, they do need to do something. If they keep on designing cards like this, they need to add, they kind of need to add like, I don't know, just better cards for everything else, better defensive opportunities. Unfortunately, yes, Overdress is a low kind of resource game. So yeah, when you have to guard use 3 cards to guard every Bruce attack, because unless you have a null, then of course you're gonna lose, right? It's just plain numbers, or you get an over trigger. That's like a terrible way to win. That's a terrible thing to bank on. You have to do that. So, honestly, I think it's not very great right now with the way that they're just printing these kind of cards. But again, like if we want to talk about what I said before, they kind of like created themselves into this kind of weird problem, to be honest, because they're just forced to kind of push the gimmicks of each ride line. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do, to be honest. One point was raised recently as well with V being so hype, is that the VR reprint ban was not a great idea, and I think that's true, right? You know, it's pretty hard to get into V if you don't have some of the VRs, if you need them in the future. So not having a reprint is just, I mean, I guess it inspires confidence in shops, but it just means no one can play them, right? No one wants to spend that much money to get into a format. But the problem is, they can't really lift it now. They can't say, okay, scrap that. We're gonna start doing reprints on VRs, because the shops will get annoyed. They've got, oh, I invested money in these VRs, and now you're saying you're reprinting them? That's a huge loss of face. So I don't think there's anything they can do, to be honest. They can only like print cards that don't rely on old VRs, which is kind of a weird condition itself, right? So that was, in hindsight, that was a terrible idea. Maybe during the time when they announced it, I think that was when, you know, card games were the hype, right? They're going up. They're going, oh, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh is collectible, Pokemon is collectible. You know, Cardfight Vanguard can be that too. You can have confidence in our sealed product. So I think they might have been caught up in that a bit, and then announced that without maybe thinking of some of the consequences that might entail, right? It might be honestly, it might be a totally different story in Japan. Cards and supplies might be more accessible, but in the West, where it's not good, man. It's not good. I also kind of want to add something to the Overdressed anime. I did watch it. I did do a review of it as well, and one thing I want to say is that it's really missing a badass character. It's missing a Kai, it's missing a Kaiba, it's missing an Ibuki, right? Danji's not really that. He's just like that, oh, that brother kind of guy. And yeah, it's missing the cyber dragons, man. It's missing the cool dude. But you know what's really attracted to like everyone? Cool, confident characters that are a bit like, they're a bit chuny, right? A bit chuny. Like Leon, huge favorite, right? Everyone loves it. It's because he's confident. He's confident. He's got a cool Maelstrom, even though Maelstrom's not even that good. Everyone's like, oh, Aquaforce, crazy clan. I love it. Kagura, wow, I love Overlords. Narukami, Kai plays Narukami, so it has to be good. Kai plays Link Joker, that has to be good too, right? So that just really, it's lacking that character, you know? It's lacking that really, really cool character. Think about like your Cyber Dragons, Jack Atlas as well, with like, I don't know, that big red head. But you know, you didn't like Jack Atlas because of that card. He rode a circle. He rode a circle motorcycle, dude. How cool is that? So I think, you know, Overdress is kind of missing that character in the anime, and I think if they have that, that'd definitely increase like a lot of visibility in that anime, to be honest, and make everyone happy. I guess, like, you know, they have responded as well. They've been saying, you know, next series we're gonna show more fights, or we're gonna show more fights. Funnily enough, that was kind of the issue with G. Remember, in the beginning they weren't showing any fights. People got annoyed, and they fixed it. So this time, I assume they're gonna fix it. Of course, it's a bit tough, right? Because, you know, a G was like just a continuous series that lasted forever. While Overdress, you know, you got 12 episodes. That's it. Make it work. Do we really have time to do that? So they have to find time to be able to put those in, and hopefully it'll be a good product, right? And I guess lastly, I kind of want to say something, right? Is, yeah, I think all formats are kind of still alright at the moment, to be honest. Right, V I think is in a great place. Premium, we're just waiting on the ban list, right? But they're at least showing care for it, to be honest, which is kind of more that could be said before. And then D, it's a no fail. Like they can't let it fail, right? They have to win with D. So they're gonna put in a lot of effort to make sure D is gonna be good for a lot of people, right? They're definitely gonna be reading this criticism, and I think they have, and that's a good thing, right? They're taking it to heart, and Busher has taken a lot of things to heart, and they've changed. They've changed a lot. So I've faith that something's gonna happen, right? They're gonna look at this and go, okay, we might need to change our direction. There's still a lot of advantages to Overdress. It's a very cheap format to play. Of course, it's very simple to play, and I've said, you know, maybe it's a bit too simple. But attracting new players, it's the easiest way. They've been putting a lot of marketing. That's the best thing that Bushiroad is good at. They're really, really good at marketing. There's been a lot of it. So, I mean, honestly, because you know for a fact that Overdress, they cannot fail with it, I think they're definitely going to put in a lot of effort to make sure this is going to work, and this is going to work for the next X years, right? So, although there's been quite a few, I've said a few criticisms, right? There's a lot of ways to improve, and remember, guys, this is still the early beginnings. We've been talking like Overdress has been out for a while, and I mean we've been talking for Overdress for like 9 months, but honestly, it's been only out for like what, like five or so. So it hasn't been out that long. I think people do have some expectations on it that, you know, are a bit unrealistic, because it's still honestly a new game, and there's still way more opportunities for it to grow and increase. And we're only entering the 3rd set. Let's be real, we're only entering the 3rd set, and it's a good thing that people are raising this firestorm about this, because it shows so many people actually care, right? If it was entering set 3 and they keep on putting Leonard 2, Super Leonard, Dark Leonard, and people aren't making peep about it, you know, I'd be worried then. I'd be like, does anyone actually play this game? Because so many people are actually talking about it, then that's a good thing. That is a good thing. So hopefully we can maybe see a response to this, you know, soon. I know the communication has been improving as well. That is definitely one thing as well that Bouchard has improved on. Before it was kind of like, you know, just the Tuesdays, we'll put something out soon. But, you know, with Overdress coming out, there's been a lot more communication with the community. And I mean, hopefully do more. It'll obviously alleviate a lot of these concerns. So if they do that, like, I think they'd be in a great shape. So of course there's been a lot of talk, right? And but there's a lot of room for improvement. But Bouchard is a company that kind of knows how to improve at least the Vanguard product, I think. So let me know what you guys think, right? Do you agree with some of my points? Do you think there's some more criticisms you want to give? Or if you have faith, this thing will change. If they're actually going to take our criticisms to heart. I think they will, man. Just think about the old stuff like Zarzan, Zero of Dragons, Dust, yeah. Remember Dust? Persona GR flips. Wow, dude. Yeah, I think it'll be fine, guys. It'll be fine. It's not gonna be as bad. It's not gonna be as bad as it is. And if it is, I think it'll probably be taken out pretty quickly. Look, it couldn't be worse than Premium right now. Let's be real. Couldn't be worse than Premium right now. But hopefully the ban list will be good. And if it's not, then enjoy playing Diamond Ass for 6 months. I'll see you later, guys. Bye.